Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We are starting to get spoilers for Explorer Anthology, the new one that's coming to Arena on July 18th. This spoiler was from Filthy Netdecker, so credit where credit's due, but we are getting Voice of Resurgence into the Explorer format. This was a card that I pulled 3 of during Dragon's Maze pre-release in boxes, and was like the only card or one of the few cards that was actually worth anything in the set. It's like the Chase Mythic that got reprinted a few times. This is a really interesting effect. Kind of taxes your instant speed effects, and I'm going to show you some decks that you can get started with during the release in the next week or so if you want to jump in and play Voice of Resurgence. We'll do this with some of the common cards or kind of the build around cards that we get in the new set as more spoilers are coming out. So Voice of Resurgence on its own, it's a 2-mana green-white elemental 2/2. Whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn or when Voice of the Resurgence dies, so 2 conditions there. You get to create an elemental creature token with power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. So this really punishes like draw-go control, things that are trying to play on your opponent's turn. So this can also slot into elemental builds. So if Omnath decks, anything like that ever become a thing, Risen Reef, this also fits in there. So there's kind of 3 shells that I was able to find regarding the deck in the last little bit that have had relative success on either MTGO or like RCQs, stuff of that nature. So this first deck is a Yorion deck. So start off by tricking your opponent, make him think you're on blue-white control. But it's kind of a, I would say, Yorion and Taxes deck. So you are playing the full 8 elves. So Llanowar Elves, Elfis Mystic to start off. You have 3 Skrells for protection. You'll notice a bunch of 1-ofs in the deck, and we'll cover that. That's because of Court of Calling. So Court of Calling lets you tutor a card into your deck. And you're saying, but Joe, Court of Calling doesn't exist in Arena. It's another card that's spoiled. Spoiler on the spoiler. Is actually kind of appropriate that Court of Calling on Twitter spoiled Court of Calling. So we're going to get this card into the format. This also sees play in things like Elves, but Court of Calling can tutor up specific cards, and you can also use Convoke so you can tap your creatures. This allows you to have a toolbox of effects. Toolbox, for those unfamiliar, is an ability to kind of say, I want a card in a specific condition to have a specific effect, but I don't want multiple copies. So this lets you kind of have 5 copies in a way, 4 Court of Calling plus the copy itself. So we have Drannith Magistrate, where your opponent can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hand, so they're trying to get stuff from the graveyard, combo decks, anything like that. Malira for protection, Phyrexian Revoker to name activated abilities to shut them off, Scavenging Ooze for graveyard hate, Selfless Spirit to have Indestructible for your team. We have the mentioned Voice of Resurgence as a 3-of in this deck. Archon of Emeria, Tax is the greedy mana bases. Don't worry, I'll paste these deck lists. You can copy them easy if you want to get started. We have Elite Spellbinder here as a way to tax your opponent's hands. Knight of Autumn, life gain, artifact enchantment removal, just decent beater. Lauren, artifact enchantment removal. Skyclave Apparition, catch-all removal for 4 CMC. We have the Shalai for giving your other creatures hexproof. Yasharn shuts off the sacrifice decks, which is really nice. We got Mama Elish Norn, double your ETB triggers. A lot of the cards in the deck are ETB, so you get to double that while shutting off your opponents. And then Dramoka's Command for fight. You have Kabira's Takedown and then Shijiri's Shelter as value cards out of your mana base. Wandering Emperor, another nice flash threat. You have Invasion of Gobokan in here to tax your opponent's hand. Touch the Spirit Realm could be either used as removal or to blink your own stuff. And then Wedding Announcement for more kind of the go-wide creature, playing into the tokens that you get from the Voice of the Resurgence. In the sideboard, you got Catch-all removal for like little things, Importable Hole, Surge of Salvation for the Rakdos kind of decks, another Dramoka's Command, Artifact Enchantments, this blows up enchantments. You get to put counters, you get to fight, and then prevent damage from burn. And then you get Remorseful Cleric to exile graveyards along with Rest in Peace, some more Archons. So Archon of Emeria sees more play in Pioneer because of the Lotus Field combo. So that's something to keep in mind. Or if you're just, like even the red-white Pia decks that play a lot of cards from exile, you can kind of tax your opponent there, only give them 1 per turn. Another Knight, another Skyclave, another Yasharn, so kind of these silver bullets, if you need more of them, you have it, and then Lyra as a nice life linker on the top. So there's that Yorion version of the deck. Then there is the Selesnya Vehicles list. So a few different variations of this deck, but the kind of concept is similar to that of the Gruul Vehicles, but you're sacrificing the explosiveness of like the haste draws. Instead, you're going to get better removal and then kind of token themes. So you still have your Mystics, you have 3 copies of Malira, you have the Voice of Resurgence, you have Adeline that lets you go wide, you have Lovestruck Beast, similar idea, Skyclave Apparition has removal, Dromoka's Command, a full playset in here. Then you have the Archangel Elspeth that gives your creature, can make you lifelink tokens, can give a creature flying and a boost. So you say like an Adeline with flying, and then it can also reanimate all your small creatures that are in the graveyard. 4 of Eska's Chariot in the main board. You can copy all the tokens, including the Voice of Resurgence tokens. Sideboard, Destroy Evil, Enchantment, and big things. Hallowed Moonlight. If a creature would enter the battlefield and wasn't cast, you exile it, draw a card. Traxa Reanimator, Creativity decks, anything of that nature. Ooze for Graveyard Hate, along with Hearse. Arcana Myria, like I mentioned, predominantly for the Lotus Field, but can have incidental cases. Brutal Cathar's removal, and then some Sky Sovereigns, good against the Rakdos decks, like other creature decks, stuff of that nature. And then lastly, we have Selesnya Aggro. So this is kind of a similar idea in a way, but more linear in terms of aggression. So this is a full collected company, Kyla's Reconstruction. So similar to what we see in the Angel Shells, but you're replacing the Angels with just kind of beaters. This version is only playing a single copy main of Voice of Resurgence, but you have like Werewolf Pack Leaders, the Arkans, Brutal Cathars, Skyclave, so lots of exile removal, and then just some creatures to beat down with. Augur of Autumn can also provide card advantage off the top in this list. Sideboard, you have Shaper Sanctuary for targeted removal, Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate, another Voice, Anointed Peacekeeper for tax, along with Spellbinder, Augur of Autumn for card advantage, Guardian of Faith to protect against sweepers, Phyrexian Censor to tax your opponent, and then Redain to tax the big mana. So it's kind of like a aggro taxes shell. So these are 3 kind of different takes. We see similar overlapping ideas, but kind of different ways you can approach the deck or like the card and leverage this kind of new interesting card. These are some ideas that we don't see too much of, like Selesnya Aggro. We had it in Historic for a bit, but it's largely kind of fallen off. So it's interesting to see kind of these shells, these like Death and Taxes style shells come to the Explorer format. Let me know what you think of this. We'll cover other decks as well as they come up, but we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.